Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! In our thousands, in our millions! In our thousands, in our millions! In our thousands, in our millions! From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea! London, make some noise! Thank you for joining us once again in your hundreds of thousands today as we come together to demand a full and immediate ceasefire and freedom and justice for the people of Palestine. At the start of 2024, the Palestinian flag flies high across the world. It has once more taken its rightful place as a symbol of liberation, as an inspiration and as a guiding light for everyone the world over who struggles against imperialism. Millions of people have filled the streets of every town and every city demanding peace and demanding justice. In every workplace, in every school, in every university, the struggle of the Palestinian people has been made visible. A fire has been ignited, and it is a fire that will never go out. Over the last few weeks, the dividing lines have become clearer than ever. South Africans who overthrew apartheid are fighting to stop the apartheid state of Israel from enacting its own genocide. And on the day that South African lawyers presented evidence in all of its horrifying and indisputable detail, what did Israel's allies in Washington and Westminster do? They bombed one of the poorest countries in the world. They bombed Yemen so that they could keep the weapons flowing to Israel. Once again, British planes fly where they do not belong. They fly from bases in Cyprus, the colonial enclave itself, which is also used to supply the Israeli military with weapons. The peoples of South Africa and Palestine are the very embodiment of heroism and steadfastness. They have taught the world how to struggle against racism and colonial oppression. Today, the brothers and the sisters of the children murdered in Sharpeville and Soweto lead the fight for justice for the children murdered in Jablaya, in Beach Camp, in Khan Yunis, in Shigaya. And tomorrow, one day soon, one day in our lifetimes, the brothers and sisters of those children will grow up, will learn, will bring new life in their liberated homeland. The imperial powers will never be able to divide us because our struggle is one. With the power of international solidarity, our movement won freedom for South Africa. Now it is time for us to win freedom for Palestine. During the anti-apartheid movement and during anti-colonial struggles all over Africa, there was one rallying cry that was heard throughout the streets. And I want us to repeat it today. So when I say Amandla, I want you to say Awaitu. It means power to us, power to the people. Amandla! 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 In our thousands, in our millions! In our thousands, in our millions! In our thousands, in our millions! It is now my huge honour to introduce our first speaker of this afternoon. Please give the warmest possible welcome to the Palestinian ambassador to the UK, Tظاهرة.
Friends, sisters, brothers, Londoners, Britons, they thought after all these atrocities you wouldn't come out. They thought after 100 days of genocide, they thought they had normalized children being slaughtered. They thought you might get tired because your government is not listening. Yet here you are, in your thousands, in your tens of thousands, in your hundreds of thousands, coming out in bigger numbers, coming out stronger, coming out more united, coming out more determined. Every time the government is not listening, your voice grows louder, louder. This is the power of the people. We will not stop until we reach a ceasefire. Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now. Until we have a free Palestine. Free Palestine. We wave the flag high. Wave the flag high so they see you. Raise your voice so they hear you. My friends, I stand before you with a broken heart. Every day brings fresh horrors from Palestine, and not just in Gaza. Every day there are mass murders, mass destruction, mass displacement, mass arrests. Every day we absorb horrific stories. I stand before you with a broken heart. For 3-year-old Ahmed Shabat, Ahmed lost his legs in an Israeli airstrike that killed his entire family in Khan Yunis, except his 2-year-old brother Omar. Omar and Ahmed are now orphans. They are among the growing number of WCNFS in Gaza. Wounded child, no surviving family. They survived, however, unlike the nearly 10,000 children Israel has killed in its genocidal rage. Let us vow for Omar and Ahmed and all the innocent people killed by Israel that we shall not rest. We shall not rest until their killers, their oppressors are brought to justice. To justice! An entire population is being starved, dehydrated, subjected to infectious disease. An entire population is sentenced to death. An entire population is being pushed further and further out of the homeland. I do stand before you with a broken heart, but I do not stand before you with a broken spirit. The will of the Palestinian people is unbreakable. Ours is a nation of freedom fighters. Freedom fighters. You know why? Because our history contains all humanity's history, and our future is linked to all humanity's South Africa has presented a formidable case, and it has presented a formidable challenge to the world. Which side are you on? Are you for international law or for the rule of the jungle? Are you serious about all people being equal? The answer will impact generations to come. It will resound all around the world. South Africa's case is also directed at those complicit with Israel's brutality, the US and the UK included. The same countries who stood the longest by South Africa's apartheid regime are the very same countries who stand by Israel today. And my friends, let me say this. It will be a long journey to freedom, because you know, I know, as Nelson Mandela knew, a world in which Palestinians are not free is a world in chains. Let us break our chains. Let us break our chains. Let us raise our flag. Raise it high. Raise it high. And let us stand as one. All faiths, all backgrounds, all colors, and speak in one voice. Cling to your moral compass. That moral compass will preserve our shared humanity. That moral compass will lead us to a free Jerusalem, lead us to a free Palestine, free Palestine, free Palestine. Thank you.
Brothers and sisters, Mr. Ambassador! Now, while most members of Parliament in that place should be hanging their heads in shame for their complicity in Israel's killing and for their actions in Yemen, there are a handful who do speak up for peace. And our next speaker is one of the strongest voices for Palestinian freedom in Parliament. Please welcome the MPs of Poplar and Limehouse and Sana Begum.
Thank you, Shelley. I want to begin by asking how many more people have to be killed before our government will call for a ceasefire? It's been more than 3 months. More than 3 months of us coming together in protest, of us demanding that the UK government use their influence to stop the carnage that we are continuing to witness in Gaza. More than 3 months of us calling for a ceasefire now. Since then, more than 29,000 people in Gaza have been killed by Israeli bombs. More than 25,000 children in Gaza have lost a parent. More than 50,000 Palestinians have been injured. New polling shows that 71% of the British public want a ceasefire. And around the world, the cries for a ceasefire grow louder. Today, on this global day of action, movements in at least 45 countries are participating, just like all of us are today, on these calls. In the face of this, the UK government's silence, complicity, and yes, aggression is unacceptable. At this time, when de-escalation is needed now more than ever before, the UK government's launching of airstrikes in the Red Sea, into war. In 2003, we ruled that the invasion of Iraq would set off a spiral of conflict that would fuel the conflict and misery of future generations. And we warn again now. Yemen. Yemen is one of the poorest countries in our world. Civilians there have been striving for an end to the almost decade-long war that they have endured. Before now, the situation over there had already been labelled one of the worst humanitarian crises of our time. So many are enduring starvation. That's why we stand here today and say to this government, not in our name. I want to hear you loud and clear. Not in our name. It's disgraceful that the UK government appears to be putting profit over people, not calling for a ceasefire when thousands and thousands have been killed by Israel's genocidal actions, but appearing to act with aggression in the interest of international trade. Risking the prospect of further escalation in a region where they have already, according to UN reports, been complicit in aiding and assisting war crimes through the sale of arms. So I want to ask again, how many children are lying under the rubble in Gaza because of UK traded weapons? Why won't our government stop sending arms to countries that UN experts have said may be being used to commit war crimes? It's also disgusting that arms companies in the UK are being allowed to profit from the misery being inflicted in the region. But we know that this is not just about profit and trade, it's an exercise in imperial power. Our government may refuse to stand on the right side of history. They may not believe that Palestinian lives matter, but we will call them out for their double standards. And yes, we will continue to confront the threats of imperialism that Britain continues to pursue throughout the world. Arms sales to Israel must end immediately. Arms sales to Saudi Arabia must end immediately. And we will continue to demand nothing short of an immediate and global ceasefire. And that is just the beginning. A ceasefire is not peace, and a ceasefire is not freedom. Yemenis and Palestinians deserve both peace and freedom. Just as post-apartheid South Africa laid out to the world this week, the oppressed people of the world need lasting peace based on human rights and justice. That means an end to the bombing of Gaza, an end to the illegal settlements, an end to the 17-year blockade of Gaza, an end to the forced evictions, and an end to the indiscriminate settler violence in the West Bank. We have been coming together in protest for the last 3 months. We will not stop until there is lasting peace. Please keep raising your voices. Please keep coming together, louder and stronger. Palestine, in Yemen, and beyond, the oppressed people of the world will be free. Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Solidarity!
Thank you, Oksana. Our next speaker is a very, very special guest. She's from Dublin. She's here representing the people of Ireland who know the horrors of occupation all too well. Please give it up for the President of Sinn Féin, Mary Lou McDonald! So hello London! How are you all doing? There's a lot of you out there, and I am so proud and honoured to stand with you today. Together we stand with Palestine united in our thousands, in our millions, an international movement for freedom and justice in our thousands, in our
days now. For nearly 100 days, the impoverished, dispossessed refugee population of Gaza have faced annihilation, a horrific crescendo of apartheid that has brutalized generations of Palestinians. For nearly 100 days, the mothers and fathers of Gaza have wept an ocean of tears over the still bodies of their dead children. Gaza, the graveyard of children. And the world looks on in horror and shouts for a ceasefire, but some choose to look the other way. Some believe that Israel can act with impunity, rain hell on a civilian population, decimate civilian infrastructure, hospitals, schools, refugee camps, terrorize children, steal their lives without consequence. And friends, perhaps that is the greatest obscenity, a long-playing obscenity. Israel seeks to justify its barbarity, calling it self-defense. Well, Netanyahu's government needs to know that nobody buys that. We see your lies for what they are. Destroying hospitals, cutting off water supplies is not self-defense. Displacing an entire population is not self-defense. Massacring children in their thousands is not self-defense. So the world now stands at a crossroads, and there is a choice to be made. You see, we're told that the world order is based on human rights, on justice, and the rule of law. Well, now we demand that justice, those human rights, that rule of international law for Palestine, for Gaza, for the West Bank. We demand that Israel is held to account, that the slaughter ends now, and that governments everywhere call for ceasefire. And the international effort has to now be for peace and for Palestinian self-determination. The Nakba, the Palestinian nightmare, has gone on for too long, and now we seek a new horizon of freedom, of peace and security. And if my voice can hold up, let me say this to the cynics, to the indifferent, to the belligerent, who say that this can't happen, that peace and Palestinian freedom is a dream too far. Well, I say this standing here in London, in common cause with you, having walked our own journey out of conflict, of building peace for 25 years. I say, this can happen, this must happen, and we will ensure that it does happen. Friends, this week South Africa has shown others what it means to lead, and now others must measure up. The case for an immediate, permanent ceasefire is now unanswerable. The refusal to support an immediate, permanent ceasefire is unconscionable. So we now reiterate that call. All of us, the many, demands that world leaders act now. Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now. Gurmina Maghreb. Agus Bígí Mai. Shia Khan Agus Saoirse in Palestine. Long live Palestine.
Thank you, Mary Lou. As we know, our various trade unions have always stood in solidarity with the Palestinians. And our next speaker is the president of Unison Union, representing over 1.4 million workers in Britain. So please give a warm welcome to Libby Nolan. Thank you. It's a great honour to be here today and to tell you that Unison and the International Trade Union Movement stand united in our call for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire now. We condemn the devastating bombardment and the violence of the last 9 weeks and stand in solidarity with all those that mourn the loss of loved ones. For all but 7 of the last 98 days, the people of Gaza have endured a horrific and indiscriminate bombing campaign that has changed the face of the territory beyond recognition, damaging, destroying